What is your contact's name, email, and no?
Well, hello. We always start with laughs and conversations and notes. And here is Doc Rio, our media expert, coach, amazing engineer as well. And me, of course, a coach, an engineer. And we're both in media, we're both speakers, we're both authors, we both absolutely want you to change, we want you to grow, and we are saying that we grow together. We grow and you grow, and we can grow together. And that's why we're doing this show, which is actually the Right Brain and Left Brain show. And the reason, because we are right brainers and we're always talking, and we have this really fun way to speak where we go from one topic to the other and we change all the time. And we decided to share it with you, to share our conversations, because it's actually kind of fun. We have fun with it, so we know that you're going to have fun with it. So, Doc, um, how are you doing today? I know we've got a lot of things to talk about, but how are you? How are you doing today? What is your right brain doing today that is not doing was not doing yesterday?
Well, it's funny because we were just talking about talking and how we talk and how our conversations continue to change and mold and we just went through like six topics while we were preparing for this. So, it's just a matter of a normal everyday thing. Our right brains are consistently moving and thinking about new topics to talk about.
Yeah, hopping, hopping, hopping.
Yeah, it's like well, it's funny that you say that because I was in the metaverse in Horizons on Oculus, and one of the things that I'm consistently doing is taking something and duplicating it. So copy, 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 copy. And so when you said that, I was thinking copy, 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 array, 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 array. So,
Yeah,
the things that happen, and then okay, is that script working? Copy, copy, come on. See, right brain.
yeah. It's so interesting, that you're what we do on a regular basis, we then translate it into a regular conversation, and we translate it into our business, translate it into our relationships. And then it's so interesting that now you have some paradigm and some way of acting inside a different universe, in the metaverse. And now it's translated to an in-person conversation where you're saying, oh, that I want to copy that, I want to copy that. So a lot of things in computers, in technology, in software actually do translate into conversations, into the
Yes.
life. And do you remember, Doc, when people did not know, only the tech people knew about viruses, or tech people knew about software, tech people knew about the technology that we're used to using every day now as a regular thing. But now, aren't you noticing that in the media, this is something I noticed, in the media everybody's now trying to explain paradigms and things, comparing them to computer viruses, or comparing them to software development or software, as if, oh, like, do you understand how viruses work? Well, this is how it works in the real life. And before, we were trying to explain the real life, like how a virus works, how that is translated into a computer, and how that may, that how a computer virus works. And now I'm seeing the opposite. Like, the generations have come, we're so used to technology that now we're using things that we understand so well. It's become social knowledge, mass knowledge, and now we're taking relationship patterns, interactions, business strategies to computer systems, computer concepts, technology, not computer, but technology in general, right? Like phone technology, Zoom technology, like when now that the expression a Zoom call, it means a lot more than before. A Zoom call, it's using a software that you have video, that everybody's connected. It comes with all this heaviness of the pandemic, right? And is a Zoom call is a Zoom call. I was in a Zoom call. That means a lot of things now if you say it that way. And before, can you get on a Zoom call? It's like, oh, what is that? What is Zoom? Like, oh, you can. So it's interesting, when I started using the Zoom application when I launched my coaching in Paris, that was in 2014, 15. And that was I had to explain what the Zoom call it was, download the app and all that stuff. So now, what do you think about that? Like how we're using these amazing, complex technology concepts into real life to explain our day-to-day normal life.
I have to say the paradigm shift is almost unbelievable. I definitely agree with that. The idea that we've gone from, I remember in 95 when I was trying to explain net meeting to somebody. Yeah, you could talk to somebody in the Soviet Union, or you could talk to somebody in Africa. You know what I mean? And I'm like, what are you doing talking to people in Africa from your computer? I'm like, I'm getting to know people. I'm getting to find out what people think on the other side of the world. What are you doing? And explaining that to somebody, that I could sit there in front of my computer and go screen to screen and talk with somebody. And then this whole shift now where we're going backwards and saying, okay, this is how technology works, but this is how the human beings work. This is how you grow your own food. I mean, back in my day, everybody kind of knew how to grow, put stuff in the ground and it grows. I mean, we learned that in elementary school. And then now people are learning, oh, well, I can actually grow my own food. I've had people tell me, oh, I didn't know you could do that. And I'm like, really? I mean, it's not against the law to plant something, and so, or hydroponic, even better, because hydroponics make it so you don't even have to take it outdoors. You can put it in a safe environment, keep it pesticide free or pest free, and still grow without even extra soil, just water. And there's so much we can do now, and we have to explain it through technology, because generations from before the generations from now only get it one way, and the generations from before kind of in some sense don't want to get what the new stuff is. And so in order to compare both generations, there's more people, as our coach says, there's more people getting older and older and not caring about the new technology.
Yeah, but that's what's going to happen in life, right? Like as we get older, we just resist to those new changes, resist to the technology, especially because technology is making so many leaps forward. Yes. And so many drastic changes to our way of life. Just having just having a phone where you can actually do things like this, right? That wasn't there before. We were
got my tricorder. Do you have your tricorder?
No, I don't. Well, we were talking about stylus before,
Star Trek. Tricorder, yeah.
And we were talking earlier about styluses. Before we used to have a stylus to work with
the pencils.
Palm OS. And this stylus doesn't have battery. I have two styluses. Look, I have two. One costs $1, the other costs $10. But now we show the new one. Show the new one. And now we have this one that costs like over $100.
I'm trying to see if
and it charges and needs battery for it.
From this one to this one.
To this one. Exactly. So what the hell happened? No, so I don't know. But it's interesting. But the people that are older that have experienced other things, then
BlackBerry.
We resist. Like for example, if you tell me that I need to get a new pencil, Apple Pencil, right? That probably will change my life, will be easier, be integrated with all my tools, right? I refuse to think that I have to charge a thing. So there's nobody's gonna make me change to it because I have a stylus that works. So that's because I experienced it. But if I didn't experience it before, and you take a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 5-year-old, they'll just logically, see the pencil for the first time. That's how it is, that's how it uses it, and will never think that you can have a pencil like that to interact with your devices without battery, for example, without energy.
And I'm going to say, this new pencil actually works so much better than the old pencil on iPads. And it's even better than the stylus, how it works with it when it comes to drawing. It's just interesting. So for me, I was more like the experience of getting it to find out the new experience. It's like I have two Oculus. A Quest. I have the older Quest, and they were saying, oh, well, in order to use Horizons after this date in January, you're going to need the newer one. And so I already was getting the newer one because of other programs. However, if I stayed in the older one, I might not be able to use the new software
Yeah.
Fortunately, that doesn't happen. I'm using both. And when my battery dies on one, I pop over the other one and jump right in. So now I have more time building and scripting, or more time. Usually I was using Oculus, be honest with you. The major thing I was using it for was a side workout, because I could get Invader Immortal and get a lightsaber, have fun working out, and come out with my thighs, my arms, and everything just tired. And people are like, well, how did you do that in Vader Immortal? Because Vader Immortal is just you go around and act like you're with Vader. Well, there's a dojo where you can practice using the lightsaber, and I have all three Vader Immortals, so each one is different. One is, well, you play with bots. The next one is bots and things that come and you can use the force. And then the next one is now you fight actual stormtroopers and actual enemy and bots, and use guns and the force, and so it just gets harder and harder and harder. But the workout, ducking and dodging and standing in one place, and you realize afterwards that it was like I did over 1,000 squats. When I went to walk away, I started to stumble, and for the next week my inner thighs were sore, so I had to not play Vader Immortal. So I was like, okay, I gotta be careful. You gotta work up to that kind of workout.
That is funny. That is totally funny. Well, you see, it's like a complete new paradigm just to be there and do a workout without really realizing you're doing a workout. This is something happened to me at the beginning of Clubhouse last year. You know, there's a term in Clubhouse for the audience that who's listening that's called squatting on a room, and that means that you are just listening in there and you're not interacting, but you want to be on stage, and you're passive, but you just want to be on stage just for the heck of being on stage, and that's called squatting, and that's a bad thing to do in Clubhouse.
Is it?
When
Oh.
somebody says you're squatting in the room, that means that you're taking advantage of the room, right? So it was not good. So I saw this room earlier in the year called "Squatting Your Way to Beauty" or something. No, squat your way to a nice butt or something. I mean, something like that.
What?
It was
Squat your way to a nice butt? Okay,
yeah,
I'm
I
gonna
mean, it was
squat my way
something.
to
It was
it.
it was something like I can't remember. With without squats, what is this Colombian soap opera? Is like without boobs you don't.
Oh,
Uh,
there's a Colombian soap opera that talks about without boobs you don't grow, or something, or
no,
without
no, no,
what?
no. So it was a Latinx thing. Okay, so there's a special
Oh,
soap opera that says there's no paradise without the boobs or something. This is like a drug trafficking thing
oh my
with
goodness!
women that were doing their boobs to put drugs in their thing. But there was a
Without
room,
breasts, there is no paradise. Oh
right?
wow!
So then the thing is that there was a room called "Without Squatting, There's No Paradise" or something like the same
Oh my
title
god!
of the soap opera, and I'm like, what is this? So I went inside. Lo and behold, there were 30 minutes of ladies squatting, like literally squatting, like up and down for
They were
30
squatting for 30 minutes
for
in
30
a
minutes
room
straight.
talking to each other.
No, we were just squatting and screaming, and they had. And then I did it with them. I developed this
Oh my
relationship.
goodness! So it's all the sound of them squatting,
We
up,
were
down,
all
up, down.
So we were squatting for 30 minutes with one of the girls was putting the like pumping music, super cool, like
Wow.
reggaeton or whatever, like Latin music.
Let's
And
squat it, squat it.
and like go down, your booty's gonna be great.
Tighten that butt. Get it right.
It was the most
It's like a
fun thing. It was
like an overhyped Jillian Michaels class, right?
Yes, and it was the funnest room I've ever been on Clubhouse. I have to tell you, I love these ladies who are still connected there on Clubhouse with the Latinx community, and I loved it. And it
That's
was nice,
wonderful.
and it worked. Just 30 minutes squat. I finished it. I did 30 minutes of up and down squats, and it was great. I liked it. I liked it. So that was at the beginning of the year, like when people were trying to experiment, like what can they do with technology? So this is talking about technology and their life. And now we can say, oh, okay, no, yeah, we're gonna squat over a Clubhouse, a workout on Clubhouse, which is live audio only. What can you do there? because you can't see the people, you can't do things, but
But
look,
you can hear them.
we had a workout on Clubhouse. It was so fun, Doc. I can't tell you.
I wonder how many people were actually squatting though.
No,
You
we
see,
were all.
you,
Oh, we were all.
you gotta ask that question, because they're both squatting either way. If they're on
No,
stage and they're not doing anything, they're
well,
squatting, and if they're squatting, they're squatting.
no. Let me tell you something, Doc. This is this is serious for the Latinx. This is serious. No
I know
Latinx,
it is serious in the Latinx community, but every once in a while you get one or two people who aren't serious. Come on.
no Latinx. I think we were maybe like 10 girls.
Oh, okay, that's not bad. Yeah, probably everybody was, but
200.
you get like 30, 40 people on stage. Somebody's sitting back and listen to everybody going, I'm gonna eat my ice cream while they're
No. Every single girl in there was squatting. I tell you, like we were, Latinas
oh, yeah.
dancing and screaming and like, oh, it's too hard. This is not.
God, that's funny.
Let's change it. Let's go side to side. Let's go this. And basically, we were doing like what is it?
That's
Skindasana
because
to the
Latinas
right.
dance,
Yeah, skindasana to the left, skindasana to the right. And then I'm Malasana to the center. I mean, we were doing all the.
That's too funny. Oh wow. And see, I had this thing. You said something earlier, like it's not good to squat, but 90% of people squat on stages in Clubhouse.
Yeah.
So it's like, wait a minute. I know that I blurt out stuff just so that I'm not squatting all the time. I just say stuff or hit the button or try to make it get into the joke so that I'm not squatting on stage and taking space. But then I realized that there's a whole bunch of people on stage squatting and I'm the only one making noise in the background. So
Right. Well, I try not to squat. I'm listening carefully and I'm like trying to pay attention. Sometimes I'm there
yeah,
to support people and definitely our culture.
exactly.
But I
And a
try
lot of
to
times that is squatting. Supporting people 90% of the time is squatting.
squatting, right? Yeah. But definitely I told you, like this year for sure, I am making a point of if I'm in a room, I'm definitely talking, especially for these, big influencers or anything. Sometimes they bring us up there, but I am definitely so. And you've seen that I've been speaking like almost every single time, right? Yeah.
Give my silent clap.
Yeah. Come on. I should have like a clapping. I mean, let's see. I have
Oh,
a.
I clapped too much on video. That's why I had to do a silent clap.
And this is a clap.
I like that. Oh my goodness. So people have the thing that lifts up, applaud. I mean, that's another paradigm. That's a new paradigm. I don't know if you've noticed that on Zooms, where people are starting to pull up their paddle, instead of clapping and doing all the things, they got paddles now.
Yeah, I do have.
Remember we used to use those in cars to say, slow down,
I have a
stop.
whole set of emojis.
You see, yeah.
Like, look. Oh my God. So this is the.
Oh my God, Zoom emojis. Oh my goodness.
Right now. This is
that is awesome. See no evil.
Yeah, see no evil, hear no evil. Yeah. No,
that is awesome. What is the text one? I'm typing. Is that what that is?
Well, this one is like, I want to say something.
Hold up, I got something to say. This is the paradigm shift we've been talking about. That's so.
We're speaking with emojis, yes.
Right, because when you think back though, we used to do that in cars for a while. Remember that there was a tool that you could flip up and down and it had different words on it. And you'd be like, slow down. You hold out a sign in the cars in the 80s. Yeah, I remember that. And it was such a dangerous thing that people were in their cars driving and flipping this sign to tell people to slow down. And yeah, I wonder if they're still around. But yes, I remember this when I was a kid, seeing these all the time. And people would not even just that, they would even have the ones that you can flip and stick to your window.
Oh, wow.
So it's stuck to your window and you can change it, and that's where like the stuff Baby on Board and all that stuff came from, was in those panels. Baby on Board, elderly person. They had all kind of little different things that you would share.
Oh, wow.
And it was through your car window. And now it's evolutionized into emojis that we hold up on Zoom. It's like
funny. Yeah, because we have the reactions here, right? We have reactions on the Zoom now, right? I mean, not now, but we have reactions in the Zoom, and we have the clap, of course.
And it all goes back to this.
Wealth of the nation.
It's funny that it all goes back to this, which is scary too, because one side of this says it is ethical for us to exchange,
Mm.
meaning communicate, exchange ideas, exchange things, trade, barter. It is ethical for us. The other side of this book was used in 1776 to start our credit economy, our worldwide credit economy and our banking system. So it's got a kind of a twofold thing there where, one side is can be manipulated and the other side is more, natural. So it's kind of interesting that,
Very interesting.
exchange and communication.
Communication, yeah, how it's changed
Yep.
now. We there's so many. I did create an article that I posted on LinkedIn, and I posted it on, I think I did on Facebook and several places, about the new communication with emojis and how we're using emojis to communicate. There's a little book I'll show you. Yeah. So I was walking around in Paris this last summer, and those free libraries that are in the parks. And I was looking around to see what kind of interesting books they had, right? Just to see or read it in the park. Well, I found this. This is a children's book.
Mom journal?
It's called Mon Journal, my
Oh,
diary.
mon journal.
Mon
Okay.
Journal,
Mon
that
journal.
means my journal, my
Emoji
journal,
journal.
my diary. So the kid nowadays, this is the children's book, and the whole book
It's
is
full of emojis. Oh my
written
goodness.
is written based on emojis. So the whole paragraph explains the emotions of the kid with emojis.
Wow. Are we dumbing down our society?
No, it's
I
enriching
mean,
it because it's
well,
graphic. It's
we're using signals. It's signaling. It is part of what we do when it comes to communication. But I'm wondering, I start to see idiosyncrasy. Where that movie where people didn't really pay attention to what was on TV and answered things in like an emoji state. You know what I mean?
yeah, but it's actually adding to it because before we had a word before we had a thought and no word. Before we had a thought and we didn't have a printed word. Now we have a thought, the
Mhm.
word, and now we have a thought, the word, and a graphic,
And a sign and signal.
and an actual art. Art. So, for example, she's describing that they asked in school like what was her favorite thing, and then she's saying, talking about her cat, and then she has a cat emoji and all kinds of stuff, with the little cat things,
Yeah.
you know and so now she's think the child is reading cat, is seeing the word cat, and also seeing the emoji cat in their brain, so it's an added graphic. It's fascinating. So I was reading this and it just caught
I
my
see the dual
attention.
side of that. I see the dual side of that where it helps people learn more, learn the reading more, understand the reading more.
Yeah, so it's, of course, it's for children, right? So if the
Mhm.
children understand graphics, everything. So you're adding now another layer of creativity and images and graphics on top of the thing. So it just caught my attention and I actually grabbed it.
Yeah, no. I mean that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we talk about that in broadcast and in broadcast and film, television. It's it's so funny because my degrees go through the whole gambit, and so when I go to one degree and think, well, in film we had to go all the way back to news, and news we had to go all the way back to news, and so everything went back to the same route. So I kind of went through the same voyage every degree to kind of get to this same point when it comes to communication and speech. And it really talks about how we use signs and symbols and things to kind of relate to each other. Just like the idea of when we go in a foreign country, if we don't know the signs and symbols when we're driving in that foreign country, we're lost.
Yeah, like the
And
no
so
or the middle finger.
exactly. And so now even with the internet, children if they don't know these emojis, when they get to these devices, they're going to be a little bit lost. I mean, adults, I'm walking a set of adults through a web page and I say, go to those 3 lines on the side. And they're like, what 3 lines? You know, and there's lines all over the page. So when I tell them go to 3 lines on the side, if they don't understand that symbol of 3 lines is a settings or a menu tab, you know, and then maybe next to that, if we're talking about new things like crypto, that next to that is a wallet and a profile tab. So the little box that looks like a box with a latch on it is a wallet. If you don't know what those symbols mean, then you're lost in the next phase of things.
Like
and
at this point, like at this point, everybody knows what that gear icon means. It means settings. Now everybody knows about it, but we that we've been in computers for a long time, we're familiar with it for the longest time. So of course it's easy for us to teach it and say we will find it. So we would find it naturally. We'll try to look for it in the screen of every software to see where the settings are, because that's how the engineers were communicating. They would put a gear.
Exactly.
Right? And some things are natural for us because we've been in computers and we know how it's developing, so we know what to look for. So now, but the people that are new that just jump in the software or an application, they don't know, they don't have that background, they don't know what to look for.
Like our coal miners or anybody who's been working in mines for years, and they're like, oh, I'm trying to change my career.
Because they don't have those images in their brain associated with those verbs or with those nouns. So it's so interesting. And when I saw this book, this children's book in the library, I thought, well, these children are growing up with emojis since they're born. When they're learning how to read, the emojis are part of their communication. And so I started using them more in my text to exchange more with people, and always put an emoji here, an emoji there, to see what is my experience with it. And I definitely enjoy it more. I enjoy communicating more with putting something and trying to find a graphic. So just the curiosity of trying to find the right emoji that goes with the right sentence, that is in itself, it develops something like a curiosity. It develops a new connection in the brain. It's a new skill, a new thing, and it's added value to the communication, and it develops your brain. So it's interesting. And of course, as you get older, you're blocked to these things. I don't want to be typing an emoji. I'm just going to be texting a word. I'm going to use the old dictionary, Oxford words for the dictionary. No, you want to be open to the new technology. And that actually kind of segues into the other thing we were talking about, not talking about media and how the things that we see, because we just talked about how all the technology is like coming into our world and changing the way we communicate, the way we act, the way we think, the way we have paradigms in our mind, the way we find things in our world to interact with. So what about, we said we were going to discuss some of these things that are a little bit controversial, because we like controversy, always discuss. We love talking about that stuff, but there's some things that we are going to be very careful. But the influence of those technologies and the media and what we see, because you were talking about TV, talking about movies, talking about film, and how that the same way that has shaped our information and changed it to be biased to certain things, certain behaviors, certain thoughts, certain groups. So, and how that's affected, in fact, again, society. And during the pandemic, we had a huge chaos and a huge thing happening, from the Minneapolis event to the Black Lives Matter, to it just affects, and all this driven, of course, and pushed and shaped and continued to mold because of the movies, because of the media, because of that's going on media, on internet, on TV. Like, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, it definitely goes back to that paradigm shift again. When we're talking about learning and how people are, I want to say how people are able to see the learning in a sense. Like you were just, one of the things you mentioned is, and I thought it was important, was how our brains are working a little bit more to kind of figure out how to use those particular emojis. And that leads back to that part of where you were saying that other people or may not want to at a certain age to use their brain a little more to kind of work that out. And I'm starting to wonder, is this kind of also a solution for some of these things that we're dealing with as we do get older when it comes to Alzheimer's? When it comes to, see, the more we work our brain, the more we work our memory, the more we reach into our memory to kind of get it moving, the more active it is. It is proven through studies. I call him one of the godfathers of learning theory. And so one of his studies is on memory, and how when we use our working memory and dig deep in our long-term memory with our working memory back and forth, how we're able to recall everything that we've ever thought of, ever seen, ever knew. As long as we put it in our long-term memory, it's there forever. And so when we think we forget something, we don't really forget. We just need to work that mind. And so working that mind to kind of figure out an emoji or a different word to say, it's kind of like these brain games that as people get older and older are using to kind of stay, you know, um, with it, so to speak. And so when we decide to get lazy, like you're saying, and not dig into these things and dig into the new technology, where are we actually taking ourselves? And how is that affecting how we see the world? Point in question, the dangerous topic you were talking about, the Deutsche Bank turnover, that the federal conviction that was just turned over about Deutsche Bank and what happened. Now, a lot of people may not even know about it, may not even pay attention to it. And it's because we've been inundated with so many things throughout the past few years that our minds want to focus on what we think we should be focusing on. And however, in the same sense, we're consistently focusing on the wrong things in some case.
It
You know,
induces our focus. Yeah.
yeah, and we're distracted. So this big conviction that helped a lot of people who felt like they've lost a lot of money because of what the banking system was doing, was overturned. So 14 years later, it's overturned, and people don't even notice that they're consistently possibly losing again, losing more. But we're quick to notice plenty of social issues out there. We're quick to pay attention to the minute social issues, like you said, like, and as a Black man, we're quick to pay attention to Black Lives Matter, but we're less apt to pay attention to financial matters. You know what I mean? And so, Black lives can benefit more when there's more finances involved in the community, and not more finances being, I want to say, catered and shuffled to other things that don't matter. Or I don't want to say don't matter, that matter less than the well-being of the people. Because a lot of times our social issues are not affecting the people, they're affecting our mindset, or we're thinking we've resolved something, but then afterwards, what are we doing with those issues? We're
Right.
going right back in the same rat race. We're going right back in the same circle of things and not actually making change.
Right.
And that's what I want to see. It matters, all of it matters. But how is it really mattering in our lives? Is it really affecting us to make change in our lives, to grow? Or are we sitting back and saying, okay, that's done now. Now I'm comfortable again. Now I'm just going to be oblivious to the rest of the world. And I think that's what's happening a lot of times with our social issues versus our financial issues. I think we need to pay attention and encourage each other to pay attention more to
Yeah.
how money is being made and how it's being spent in our world.
Yeah, and how technology is affecting us to do our things. Because if a lot of people are gonna, for example, like the effect of the fact that everybody can work from home with Zoom, then that affects employment, that affects how companies are going to hire people, affects the way you're going to live, because you can live anywhere in the world. Now you have more opportunities, and technology is affecting more than the actual social or racial issues. And like you said, mindset, like, well, are they giving opportunities for this or for that? The
I
different.
mean, companies like Microsoft are buying Activision. Why? Because
Yeah.
they see that people are going to be home playing more video games than being at home doing work.
Right. So knowing these things makes you understand where the opportunities are, makes you understand what do you need to study, regardless of your social situation. it gives you, it is actually something that covers for everybody, right? Doesn't have to do with anything, and you have access to it as just as much as everybody, so you can have a decision. If you, this information is just ways to have better decisions, right? So if you have more information, more data, then you can have better decision for your life. So if you get the information that, oh, okay, so Microsoft is turning into this, they just bought this, they're going to inject all this budget to this kind of profession. Well, maybe and I like playing games, video games. So then why don't I study gaming platforms or something to change, to code video games or whatever that you like,
Yes.
and then you're going to get top paid because it's going to be the profession of the time, right?
Yes.
So
And,
that's
and and look on LinkedIn. Look at what these jobs pay.
yeah,
Compare what you're making in your job and look at what these other jobs pay and then decide, well, maybe I need to learn some of this stuff
yeah,
and get out of this regular working, because a lot of people are taking this $16 to $18 jobs and not realizing that the minimum should be about $30 to $40 an hour for each person. I mean, 30 to $40, 30 to $40,000 a year for each person, not $18 an hour, which is still putting you under the $20,000 mark. You
yeah,
know, and it's like, if you're making excited about making $18 an hour, you should be more excited about seeing how you can make $100,000 a year in your job.
absolutely. Like when I was finishing high school, just to give an example, when I finished high school, I I took a, I didn't know what kind of profession I was going to do, so I took a course, and at the time, computers was just starting, and in the world, and of course in Venezuela was like nothing, right? Just the
Mhm.
scientists were using computers, and we didn't see them in school or anything like that. So I took an introduction to computers course, and when I
Mm.
saw the digital world, I'm like, I need to do this. And immediately I signed up, and there were no universities that were teaching computer science in the whole country. And they decided that they would open up a computer science major in the university where I was living 1 year after. And that if I wanted to get in, be selected, I had to start in pure mathematics. So I had to do that. But I remember like starting there and taking that course and saying, oh my God, like how many of the women that started that major will get a different opportunity than any other women, any other profession? We started that major, we graduated, and and imagine the whole market in the city, there were no official graduated from college software engineers working in any
Wow.
computer. Zero. We were the
Wow.
first graduates to have a profession, like an actual title of software engineering. Nobody that was working in the petroleum engineering, all the
They were just engineers. They weren't software engineers.
nobody had any information, and also they
Wow.
were all project managers that they were just adapting to what was coming up. But let's see this SDK, this software development kit. Let's see this stuff from Microsoft. They were just using the apps and the software as it was going out. And we came into the market. The companies absorbed us like in a second, like a sponge, because we were the first like highly trained engineers in the world, in that world, right? So
Right.
I was taken right away, like I didn't, from the internship, like straight up to the stock exchange. The president of the all the oil related so in Venezuela, all the oil related companies, they have like the company that does the plastic and all the different refineries, Plastic Lago, they were called mixed enterprises, and they shared the computer department. And the president of that consortium said to me, okay, I'm going to call the person there, they need an engineer, two engineers, the two female engineers, well, yeah, two female engineers to work as a software developers to install the first automated stock exchange in the stock exchange.
Mm.
There they have two that representing the company from the Vancouver Stock Exchange that are going to work for them, and there are two that are going to be working actually for the stock exchange. And he
Wow.
called the woman, the president, the IT president of the stock exchange, the moment that was putting together the team to automate it, install the system, set it up, train the traders, and everything. And I was one of the two. But I became actually my
Wow.
boss. Actually, I was my first real boss, and she was my mentor. She was amazing. I learned everything, and then she left me in charge of it because I was so good.
Wow.
And it just they absorbed us like right away, like immediately. So if you
And
are
that's happening now in the industry. That's what's, I mean, in a few dozen industries, like especially learning design.
blockchain,
Yeah.
video game, gaming,
Coaching. Yep.
blockchain,
Yep.
anything, crypto, NFTs, anything.
Learning experience design. And what's funny is we were talking about that earlier, and I want to be clear because I don't want anybody to hear and be like, well, he didn't even add his math up, and I'm always jumbling numbers because of my dyslexia, so I have to go back and be clear. $18 an hour is $34,000 a year. Well, 30 almost $35,000 a year. However, most people are getting $18 an hour jobs that are not getting 40 hours a week. You're only getting like 20, half part-time. So you're only getting like 21K a year. Or if you're getting a $15 an hour job, you're still making less than $20,000 a year. So it's not about the how much you're getting paid. It's about how many hours you're able to work and how many hours are they letting you work now that you're working from home. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's yeah. So there's all these numbers that we need to be aware of, and not just fight for a minimum wage of an hour, but fight for how much work can we have where we can make a decent living, right? And of course,
Yes.
there's
Or how
different.
much we can make in shorter time. Because
Yes,
that's what the reality is of going up the getting away from the poverty level, as most of our coaches tell you, it's not a matter of how much you make a year, it's how fast you can make it in that year. So
how much you keep, because what if that like the 100% of that money is going for debt, or it's going to pay the mortgage and all the car credit cards and car car loans and loans that you have. That doesn't make sense, right? Like
yeah.
if you say, yeah, I earn 21 a year, but I keep the 21. The 21
Well,
is for food and distraction. That's
yeah.
okay, right? Because this basically is just profit, right? But if you have to pay every single thing and you still don't have enough for your rent and your car payments and your
In
loans,
there.
your student loans and other personal, private, or business loans or
Then you're
whatever,
looking at how can I make 21 a month?
then
Yeah.
then you're in the hole, right?
Mhm.
So it's how much money you can keep, how much money of that money you keep, and for yourself, for your own enjoyment. In Paris, people in Europe in general, they don't use credit cards much. They're not used to having credit cards. They're used to living with the money that comes in, the money that comes out. They don't have debt much, except for a mortgage or something like that, or a car payment or something like that. But they don't have credit cards where, like here, that it's so easy, and then you just pay
That's
out.
interesting. That's
So
interesting considering that credit kind of is like the thing, no matter where you're at in the world.
yeah, but
That's
there
so
people are not
interesting.
used to that, to being
Yeah.
in debt. That they have what they have is what they use, and they don't put for clothes or for travel. They don't do that.
I'm going for 100 million in debt. I'm going for it. I'm
Yeah,
literally going for that
good.
rule because if I'm 100 million in debt, I'm going to sleep well.
Yeah, yeah,
I just, it's this thought process. Yeah, that's going to stress me out, but I'm going to sleep well. You know why? Because I can't worry about it. I got to figure out new innovative things. That's
no,
the,
it's okay. I mean, right now, like our George Ross, our coach, right? He was telling us, and he's told me this a million times. And every single time I
I've
talk
heard
to
that
him,
too.
borrow as much as you can for as long as you can, because the interest rates are low, and you can just take them as long as you can pay for it, right? It's
Mhm.
okay because it's not your money, so you use your own money for your own things, and you're growing your money, and you use the loans for giving you the work so that you can grow your finances. So it's really interesting to know, like you're saying, go back to that point, just knowing about finances and what's going to help you in reality right now, and not the narrative of like, oh, I'm worried about COVID and the pandemic in the world and what's happening in this country and what's happening in the other country and what's happening to this and for that. Well, at the end, it doesn't really matter. if you are worried about your own life and how you're going to progress, you're going to prosper, you're going to
Mhm.
grow your wealth, you're going to grow your relationships, you're going to grow your health, then if you take care of your health, your mind, your body, your spirit, your relationships, and your business or your family, your surroundings, your abundance, your wealth, then that's where your focus needs to be. And then if you have to get some information about the pandemic from the news, well, maybe that's not the right place. Maybe you get it from the source, from whatever link that they have for the COVID variants and everything like that. So you don't want to be derailed from the media, and also be very careful about the ads. Be careful about how you watch the ads. You know what I do? I tell you a secret. I close my eyes when ads come up.
Really?
I close my eyes. So
I
maybe,
don't. I'm actually opposite of that, but I'm gonna tell you why. But keep
well,
going.
I used to watch them, but now I close my eyes because I know certain images that they want me to see, so that I want to buy them more, or so I don't want to be influenced. So I close my eyes. I mean, maybe I'll see them once and to see how the ad and the marketing is been done, and then never again. I close my eyes. When I used to go in Paris in the metro, I used to be distracted. Like the metro in Paris, they have banners and advertisement all the through all the tunnels for all the shows and movies and things and
Yeah,
theater and everything. And at the beginning, I was like, "Oh, looking, look, look, look," and then I realized that my mind was bombarded, and
cognitive
I wanted
load.
I wanted to clean. So I decided, you know what? I'm not going to see. I'm just gonna go forward. I'm not going to see, because you get distracted from your world, like the thoughts, your own thoughts and everything, and it worked better. Actually, it did
Yeah.
make a huge difference for me. So I just focused and did not see unless I wanted specifically to see. So I am in control. So I am going to see, and I'm going to watch what are the events happening, what is the art displayed, because I want to go to an exhibit. But it's my control as opposed to being pushed information to me. So, and just be focused on the thing, maybe listening to JT on the on
Yeah.
so so it's really about taking control of the information and how your brain is going to be affected, right? So it's
Yeah.
taking control over that information, how you're going to let that in. And it's okay. Yeah, you were going to say something about the why you watch the ads.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, a couple of things. Um, I think what you mentioned it about looking at it once. However, I tend to keep studying it, and so I study the marketing a lot of times in ads, and I'm a little weird. I'm gonna be honest. I'm hard to sell. Easy if you find the right. I want to say the right rhythm or the right tone or the right way to sell me and the right key elements. But I am so hard to sell. So I get hit with people advertising to me all the time. Everybody does, right? And I'm so used to advertising that I see right through what the advertising is every single time. I'm just looking at the formula. Oh, that's how they did it. Am I happy with how they did it? No, I'd rather not do it that way. So I'm always looking at how people are doing it and if they are manipulating people in a good way or manipulating people for their betterment, and so for me, I'm watching every single ad I can. So I'm just like, oh wow. I don't I don't even realize that it's not affecting me anymore. I didn't for a while until
And
like,
it is.
yeah, and well, I mean, it is in a sense, it's giving me ideas, but I'm pushing those ideas back out. So I'm consciously making an effort, unconsciously, consciously making an effort because I've done it for so long to say, this is not needed. This is not needed. This is not needed. I'm just watching. So my mind is trained to kind of push that side out. However, if they hit a tone or something that I really um, connect with, then it could be, or it could influence my thought. It can change it if I don't catch it. And so that's where I see what you're saying is so kind of an important thing. Hey, I watched it once and then I got it out of the way. On the other note, I know of jingles that when I was a little kid that I'm still singing today. And those jingles kind of bring back some reminisce of certain things that I experienced in life. and they actually help motivate me, and I want to say help keep me young, because it gives me that feeling, that inspiration to say, you know what, that was a good jingle. Maybe I should do this right now, or maybe. So sometimes those jingles are still beneficial because they bring back a good moment, a sentimental moment in time. And so, but there is that other side that you were saying, reducing cognitive load. We have to reduce it because it's real. I've been saying it ever since I got into the educational program, that cognitive load is real. Stop, we have to stop it, because we will overload ourselves. And when we overload ourselves, burnout becomes a major thing. And so I know that I tend to overload myself, and I tend to try to reach out and be involved in so many different things that I have to balance myself in order to not be involved in so many different things, so that I can focus on the things that are actually growing and making things move. Like my mother said something, speak of this loan forgiveness, this, being able to borrow money and borrow money and borrow money until the end of time, should I say, because I've always heard this thing about, you should just keep having your student loans and don't worry about them, because when you get old, they pay it off. Well, my mother and her wife were kind of examples of that. Her,
or grow to death until when you're dead, like you have all this debt, so you don't have to pay.
what, but that's another thing. You kind of want to hopefully live long enough so that you can get the forgiveness. So my mother's wife, for instance, she's old enough and has been ill enough that they completely are forgiving her loans. Now, it is a program, it is a process, and it is, checking with her, and it does still take time, and she still had to make payments, but they are forgiving, I think, $60,000 worth of her loans. My mother just got proof that she's going to be forgiven $80,000 worth of loans. So, and it's because of where she has placed herself. She has been serving the community for almost 10 years. And see, these are the things that I kind of want to get to people. Yes, we can borrow money because there's ways for us to get around it. I mean, there's ways for banks.
Like if it's going to be paid by something else, something's going to change.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. And
just like there's ways for banks to get money back, there's ways for human beings to get money back. So let's work on getting the money and using it for good, and worry about how we're going to pay it back after we do the good.
In France, there's the concept of the viagère. I don't know if you know about that, the viagère, the condos that you buy when you're old. So you can buy the properties of the people that are old.
It's like old folks homes. I know what you meant, because it's in another language. But
so it's basically let's say a person is 70 years old and they have a mortgage, and they just don't want to have, or they own the apartment, whatever. So they sell the apartment to you. They still live there until they die, but you're paying the apartment in quotes, and when they die, it's going to be transferred to you. So you're going to pay only whatever you pay a month from the moment that you made an agreement until the person dies. Some people can die in 1 year, some people can die in 10 years.
Creative ways to get properties.
And they get the property that way, and they're listed already. And so there's people like trying to find the health data, because you're not supposed to check, right? So people trying to find the health data for the people. And it's just, so you have, what? I think I'm going to buy one of those viagères in the south of France.
Ooh.
They have these amazing condos of these people in the south of France, and you just start paying. It doesn't, it's like a little pension. Basically, what happens is their pension. Basically, you're paying them to be alive. They have a rent. It's like they're making money, every day from
because they're getting free rent.
They're getting paid for living there. Maybe they have the paid off apartment, maybe not. Maybe they have a loan, but it doesn't matter the situation. They can use that money however they want. But it's basically a salary for them until they die, and they just have it, and then they just transfer it. Some people in France, they don't have heirs, they don't have family to leave it to, so they have a lot of people like that. So imagine you can get one of these apartments and viagère, and you get the thing, and you get an apartment in the south of France for like $10,000 if the guy dies, or a woman dies right away. So it's really interesting. I think there is a down payment or some sort of like initial payment, and then you just pay the monthly, yeah, the monthly payments. But it's interesting, like all the different financial instruments that we can have to obtain privileges in life or obtain things and have experiences that we want to have, like having a property in the south of France, for example,
Yes.
and that we can have it in a very creative way. That they're there if we do the research, if we pay attention. And I was gonna say something when you were talking about the ad. I just kind of escapes my mind right now, but I was gonna say something about because
Watching ads
yeah.
about, the jingles and how they affect us
Yeah,
sentiment.
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I had a thought, and I didn't want to interrupt you, and now I just kind of lost it.
Oh,
Anyway, if I remember again, I'll say it. But that's very very interesting, that what you're saying, like how can we deconstruct what we are seeing around us? Oh yes, I remember now. So because we're bombarded, we're talking about too much information, cognitive overload. Up, you, yeah.
I
So
don't know what just happened. Sorry.
it's okay. So I was thinking about being focused. So for us right brainers, right, we have
Hmm.
trouble getting focused on one line, right? And how that I was thinking, because I've been doing an exercise. It's very important in general for any person, right brain or left brain, to stay when once you pick a focus, to stay focused there and then maximize that, squeeze the lemon, squeeze the juice to get to something, right? When you
Okay.
squeeze the juice and squeeze the lemon, you actually do get results. And
Right.
that is in general for anybody, right? And doesn't mean that you cannot be squeezing multiple lemons at the same time. It just means that you have one lemon that has a lot of juice, you got to squeeze it.
And you
And
got to
that
get all the juice out of it.
get all the juice out, and then you can go to the next lemon of the same kind. But you can't have multiple lemons that you're squeezing really hard.
Hmm.
That's okay. I'm not saying not do more than one thing, but
But
it's
make sure you get all the juice out of the one that you started.
but that cognitive overload actually kind of plays with that focus in your brain. So the brain is a muscle, and
Yes.
focusing is actually an activity, a muscle thing. It's a brain muscle thing. You can practice. It's like concentration. Basically, let's change the word from focus to concentration. Concentration is something that you can develop no matter what. If you're a right brainer or a left brainer, of course, left brains tend to just go very deep, and it's very easy for them to just stay there. But right brainers, they shiny penny syndrome would change from one subject to the other, like just like we were doing here. But I was thinking the cognitive overload actually makes you practice losing focus.
Mm.
And when you practice losing focus, then when you want to read something, your brain says, "Oh, I've been practicing losing focus. I've been here for 1 minute reading this. I want to go to the next book here.
Hmm.
Oh, I've been reading this. I've been practicing changing the stuff. So I'm going to go to this other book here." So when you practice something, you want to do it more. If you practice losing your focus, then you're going to say, "Oh, but I don't have focus." Well, of course you've been practicing losing focus, and that was a paradigm shift that happened to me because of one of my coaches, Jay Shetty. He was teaching us to say, well, do the single tasking instead of multitasking. And I am like was very proud of multitasking, and I realized this year that I'm going back to that multitasking because I'm listening to a coaching call or a room while trying to write my gratitude journal or doing something. And basically I caught myself practicing losing focus or trying to have focus on two things and not being deep on one or the other. And I caught myself doing that this week. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna lose it again because I did make I did make um, a change when I started with Jay Shetty to do that single task and say, okay, I'm here. I'm going to give you the undivided attention and all my energy. People appreciate that. And when I'm in the coaching with in our calls or whatever, I'm going to try to do that and really learn in my Zoom call.
Yes.
just be there. And then I realized this morning that I was practicing being unfocused, and I need to go back. So that's the interesting thing, and I just wanted to mention that, because the cognitive overload makes us lose that focus, makes us practice. We're going to one place, or we're seeing something, and we're getting distracted to other things. And when we practice the focusing, we practice focusing, then when we want to get something done, we will get it done. Otherwise, when we don't want it, we will lose it. When we want to get something done, we're going to want to, no, oh, I just want to go to break, I'm going to go to the kitchen to get some water. Or oh, I need to go to the restroom, I need to stand up and walk, or I need to call somebody. Your brain is going to go and think, this morning, I mean, it really I caught myself this morning because I was trying to listen. This is something I've been practicing in the wrong, I mean, without realizing I've been practicing something that I don't want to keep. I've been, let's say I go into one of my coach's videos, I'll open up Instagram or YouTube, I'll start watching, and my mind will start wandering into the things I have to do. And I'm like, wait, I want to listen. And then I caught myself distracting from the lesson. So I had to go back and rewind. I'm like, and I did it like 10 times. And I'm like, oh, shoot, I have unlearned my focusing practice, my concentration practice. So I caught myself, and I just wanted to share that because that's what happens with the media when we are working, and then all of a sudden we get some influence from the social media, some Facebook ad, or somebody posting something about their life, or we turn on TV, and then we get caught in the advertisement, and our brain goes to another thought. Oh, I'm going to analyze the marketing, and then you go back to whatever you're reading. So all that practice of getting unfocused doesn't help us with right brainers.
Yeah, you're right. And it's important that everyone understands the studies that I've read about that. We call it task switching because multitasking is not really what it is. It's even computers aren't really multitasking. They're switching tasks
Yeah.
from one task to the next. And so we call it task switching. But
I'm
what we've
sharing.
realized, yeah. What we realize in studying task switching is that when people do task switch, they do not really give enough attention to each thing that they're doing. So it lacks being either, I want to say, complete, or it lacks the care. So sometimes we might be task switching and then we don't actually get the job done on all the tasks. And so we're burning up more time task switching than actually focusing and completing tasks. And so they say that it does not complete things that well. And there's a misconception that we can do it. And even I've heard coaches tell us, hey, we're not multitasking enough. And I go back to the cognitive load and say, well, if I multitask more, then I'm not going to really develop the things I want to develop. So I need to make sure that I take that step back and make sure I keep my focus, because for me it works better to focus, if I have to focus on one thing until it gets done right, and then move to the next thing. I know it's in the back of my mind, I know I'm still working on it, but have those still there, and then say, okay, today at this time slot I need to make sure this is done. Okay, now that other thing at this time slot, so that I'm focusing on the time slots, maybe not doing them all at the same time, but still doing them all in the same day,
Yeah.
but scheduling them out so that I'm focused on the one task at one time.
Right,
So,
right. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very important to differentiate. You can do all of it if you schedule it all. If you plan
yes,
it all, you can do it all. And it doesn't mean, but if you practice being losing the concentration to another task every 10
you're not
minutes,
going to
well,
get
guess
there.
what? The next time you want to do something for over 10 minutes, your brain is going to say, oh, 10 minutes is up. You've been practicing changing focus every 5 minutes. So
Mhm.
I'm going to be doing this. So it's very simple. It's like very logical. So
Yes.
if you practice focusing for 30-minute slots, then you will be practicing that, and you were doing that, you're going to be efficient, you finish it in 30 minutes, you can actually finish something, complete something, and give it a little bit of progress, not finish, but you're making some progress on multiple things at the same time in a day. But if you are doing a 30-minute slot, and during those 30 minutes you're getting distracted every 5 minutes because there's a clubhouse room that you're listening in the background, guess what? And we do this all the time, Doc, right? We do this. Guess what? The brain is going to be used to going back and forth between the audio. Okay, I'm paying attention to the audio, what they're saying, so I can chime in, or I'm going to write this, or I'm going to check this. So I think this week I caught myself doing that. I think I'm going to really try to pay attention. Of course, it depends on the kind of room or the kind of space that I'm listening or participating, but I think it needs my full on energy, going back to what Jay Shetty was teaching us about single tasking and really giving full attention, full energy, because really people appreciate that.
Yes.
People
And you
appreciate
actually got me thinking about something about what we talked about off off camera, of course, about talks in time and how much time we end up spending in conversations. And that made me think about something. What if we are completing something? What if we're finishing a task before we move on to the next? And that's why we need to continue that conversation longer. You see, there could be a tricky, it could be a slippery slope, but it could be a tricky um, length in time to that. Because what if that conversation needs to be an hour long in order to finish the task?
Yeah. Did you hear this morning? Did you hear the conversation this morning in the coaching call?
Half of it, remember, because I was out driving and came back and was like, oh
Well,
yeah, I got to get in the
our
coaching
coach
call.
was talking about it. Said, like, he asked our other coach, marketing coach, how long do you spend talking to X? And she's like, an hour. And it's like, well, I only want 5 minutes talk, So it's interesting. And then he talked about that. And our coach was talking about how much time are you giving to someone, and why would you give someone more time
I
than
missed that.
others? And yeah, you can re-listen actually in the replay. It
Yeah,
says,
where are those replays? We gotta talk about those and
yeah, I
slightly
can show
promote. Are
you.
they on Millionaire Flicks?
They're millionaire flicks.
Okay, gotcha.
They're in your, yeah, they're in our space. But yeah, so
Okay,
it's
I'll
interesting.
look it up.
He talked about that because I was gonna send a question about that, and then he talked about it. He said, so I didn't. I felt it made me feel better. It's exactly what you're saying. Like, you're gonna extend it for as long as you can, and if you need to close a deal, develop a relationship with a billionaire. I mean, that those are different levels of conversation, but I've been, what I decided to do after we have a talk about, so they just, let's disclose the question, the back end. So what happens is, Doc and I were talking on the phone, and we were saying, I think I've been having my goal to talk to as many people as I can during the day, and I was having issues because when I talk to some people, sometimes I spend more than 30 minutes talking to them, and I was feeling a little guilty that I wasn't making my numbers of how many people I'm talking a day, because it's reducing day by day. It's getting less and less and less because I'm talking longer and longer and longer with these people, which I love, and I am getting results, and I'm getting connections, and it's good. But should I do more numbers, more quantity, or should I leave this quality like that? And so Doc was telling me, his ideas about that he's like, yeah, but it depends. We can do this, we can do that, and I have spent I have to say more than 2 hours sometimes. you know
See, now I want to see now. Now I'm like sad that I missed that, and I want to start asking my clients, "Hey, if I'm taking you to the airport, do you mind if I listen to this?" I feel so bad because that would have been something I wanted to hear. I mean, to get a different perspective, because, like you were saying, he was asking Francie, his CEO, how much time she spends talking to important people, and if she's spending an hour and he only wants to spend 5 minutes, there's a small dichotomy there that we need to take a look at. Because
Yeah. So,
what
so,
if
so he was asking, why do you spend an hour? And she's like, well, because I want to develop the relationships. I know that is because he's talking to you. He's trying to call you, but you don't have the time because he's got
right,
full schedule and doesn't have the time to talk. And so I give him all the time that he wants.
because he's
So,
trying to connect with you, who it's
and
business to me.
she's building the relationship and
Right.
everything. I mean, of course, I totally understand, and that's what I'm doing too. But some of these people are not billionaires, you know.
Ah, now
The
that's
people
a
that
point.
the people that
That's a
I'm
great
talking,
point.
you know what I mean? The people that I'm talking, not all of them are millionaires and billionaires that I'm talking. You know, they're just and not to diminish any level, any role, but
I
it's
mean,
the
you still want to build the relationship, but how well is that relationship going to benefit both of your relationships in the future?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I mean, and it's tricky because you're not gonna say like, well, I'm not gonna talk to you if at the end I'm not gonna have any results of our relationship. I mean, we're always exchanging and expecting things from people, but it's more like, let's say I have a relationship, I have a collaborative relationship with my yoga teacher, who's my friend,
Mhm.
and I want to communicate often because I want to see what's going on, to see how he's free, to see I'm free, to see, to let him know how many people are contacting for this, for that. So I need to spend a lot of time there, and I know that's going to be fruitful for our friendship and fruitful for our collaboration and fruitful for our both our businesses. So that's a win-win situation, and that, you know, it's okay if you want to spend hours in that relationship. But then you can have a friend that you don't see, you don't see often. You're just going to be somewhere in the middle of United States that, you met somewhere
Or
somehow.
they join you on an event and you don't see them that often. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not going to have anything. It's not interested in the coaching. It's not interested in, it's just have a good friendship, and it's just there to listen. Just want to catch up. Should I spend 3 hours with that person? Maybe not.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Right. But
Just
I,
catch up with them for, half an hour, 45 minutes.
and it
Yeah.
doesn't mean the relationship will continue, will still develop, because I will give them time slots, right, to develop little by little. But maybe my priority is on the people that will grow my life and grow my business, and we can have a synergy, right? Of, like, for example, you and I spend how much time we spend talking outside this, right?
A lot, and when we do, but we're talking about growth, and we're talking about mindset, and we're talking about how to better ourselves. So we're on a same track of growing, where I think other people aren't. Yeah.
Yeah, and we also have aha moments. Like, you may give me an idea, like, hey, I did this, and it's like, oh, that's a good idea, I'm going to implement it for this. So we
You
actually
do that to me all the
brainstorm.
time, actually. You
Yeah,
do that to
so we do brainstorming in a way. So our conversations are brainstorming sessions more than just talking and gossiping or complaining or
I
comparing.
don't think we
Or
really complain.
no, we don't. But
We might say we don't like this, but then we're like, how can we fix it?
yeah,
And
we
that's the difference. I think a lot of people go through. Oh, I don't like this, so let's complain about it for the next hour. Like, what did the complaining do?
yeah, yeah. So it's different, right? So it's, I guess, the quality and the strategy, how you're gonna go about each person. It's interesting about the time. But yeah, you're right, that dog. You were actually right. And your what you told me on the phone, yeah, that was actually right. That I should just give a little more time. That it's okay to give more time, and not feel guilty. But today I was going over the list, and I was contacting people left and right, and going over my app, I'm really
Oh
enjoying
yeah,
it.
you're using that app. I got.
A
I
break
want.
with Q,
Yeah.
and I'm really enjoying it. And I'm actually removing some people, because 150, and so I'm removing some people that I added at the beginning, and then putting other people in the circles and texting them and messaging them. I'm like, oh, I need to talk, maybe this person. Oh, and then I'm remembering the people that I need to talk to, or even new people that could be connections, collaborations. And also, because this is just for the audience, like, if you uh depending on how old you are, right, if you're the young generation or if you're the older generation, you may have a Rolodex, and a Rolodex is something that the people had before in their offices, that was a physical thing to keep the business contacts, just
I
for
still have one back in that corner over there.
oh yeah, I was
the
talking to
big the big dial one.
yeah,
Flip, flip, flip.
yeah, I was talking to a German friend of mine, I mean, a Swiss friend of mine, and I said, I'm trying to get contact as many people in my Rolodex, and he replied, you know what? I just learned what Rolodex is. Like, they had to look it up, and it was just funny because
Wow.
it's a word that we know, because maybe we're dating ourselves, but it's interesting. So if you have, anyway, that's, you see, right brain, side note, going back to what I was saying, so if you have a list of people in your contacts from your whole life, and I have people there since my high school, and if you want to go through them and then actually prioritize and say, maybe the people that knew you from before, maybe right now you're doing a business that is different than 10 years ago, and maybe these people that knew you back way back when you were doing X, Y, and Z kind of work, or maybe when you were studying and you weren't sure where your life direction was going to be, maybe those people want to rekindle with you. You want to rekindle those relationships, and they want to get to know you anew, get to
Yes.
know a new you, and maybe those could be even potential customers, collaborations, relationships for referrals, and that's interesting. You can go back. You don't have to go to the immediate circle that you know now, the people that you know recently, that you've talked to recently. You can also go back to all the way back and tell them, hey, you know what, you this is me, or do you remember me? Or maybe you're still in contact with them and say, hey, I just wanted to call you or text you or email you or a Zoom call you, so that I can tell you what I'm up to right now in my business. Even if you change your business the last year, the last 3 years, the last 5 years, or the last 10 years. I certainly changed it since 2014. So
I'm gonna say I'm doing a lot of that now, especially
yes,
because
you can go back.
I'm learning, reconnecting with people that have been in real estate and that I haven't really connected that way, because I had known them for years, hung out with them, spent time. I've never spoke to them about real estate. And
Right,
so I'm reconnecting with them all over again about
right.
real estate. And they're probably looking at the message like, I don't know if I should die. But the more I talk to them about it, I notice the more people are coming out of the woodwork,
That's what I
but
did.
it's
I got
because I
good
have to
news.
keep mentioning it.
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
that with a person that I met in London. My first Christmas in Paris, 2014. I knew that he was a realtor in Florida. I connected with him because I wanted to see what is, for the deals, and he brought me 2 deals. So it was just like, oh my God, this is working.
So
So
wonderful.
just so you can reconnect with people that maybe their way of living was not related to yours back
Yes.
then, but now is related to ours. We are investors, we are coaches, we are engineers, we are media people. So maybe we can go back to all the stuff to, to rekindle and reconnect and show. And of course, whoever's
Oh,
watching
and
this.
I've definitely been going back to my music crowd, Trevor Lawrence, John DeVersa, Mike Elizondo. If I ever get a chance to talk and play with him again, that's just going to be awesome. But, just going back and talking with those folks and seeing how they perform as well, seeing the changes that they've made over time and learning as well and growing from their music experience.
Yeah,
It's like that is an interesting point, because I think sometimes we forget our roots.
yeah,
And if we go back to our roots, some of the things on our roots reflect our life today. I talk about this all the time, how when I was a child, I talked about all the things I wanted to do in life. And when I look back, I actually did them all. I actually accomplished almost 90% of everything that I wanted to accomplish in life, except it didn't look the same. I didn't recognize it because it wasn't the way I dreamt it to be. However, I still accomplished the goal because when I was young, I knew what I wanted to do. And so back in those days, we got to remember that when
yeah,
we were younger, when we were connecting with people, when we were really getting into our communities as a young person, and even if we weren't, we had ideas that were about our future. We need to get back to those ideas and start thinking about those ideas and implementing some of those ideas, because I'm sure many of them are still valid.
that reminds me that you gave me a good tip of the rent to own the other day, and I'm on it. I
Forgot about
found,
that one.
I found,
I got to remember that too.
I
Thank
found a
you.
bunch of stuff about that rent to own properties.
Did you
I
see
just
where I was talking about?
Yes, and I found them all. I'm like, yes, 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 yes. So
I
yeah,
was like, that popped up from I'm gonna say 2000, when I was in a condo and 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 changing over back into filmmaking. So I wasn't even thinking about, but I was in a condo with somebody else, and those conversations came up, and that's information that I had there holding that I never gave anybody But
I
when we had
found,
a
I
conversation, I'm
found
like,
that
yes.
I found one in the location where we talked about for 1,500 a month.
See what I'm saying?
And I'm like, okay, it's done. It's done deal. It's
Rent to
happening.
own,
It's
you know,
happening in the next 2 weeks, actually.
and
In the next month. In the next
and
month, it's happening.
and that's for people like us who are nomads, who like to move frequently, should I say, and maybe like may own property, but still like to live in a rental space because maybe you own a property that you're renting out for more money that than you're gonna be paying. So this is that, we have to look at life from different aspects. Not everything is going to be black and white inside of a box. Let's
Exactly.
start looking outside that box. Let's start mixing those colors together and seeing how those palettes work.
Yeah, just like Hugh Hilton says, be creative, be curious, have compassion, be what is the other C? The 6 C's. You remember the 6 C's?
Yes, the
I
six
forgot
C's.
now.
I don't remember them either. I need to memorize them.
Curious, curious, creativity. Um, I'm forgetting right
Creativity,
now.
compassion.
Compassion and
I
oh
forget
no,
them.
oh no, oh no.
Oh no,
We
hold
have
on.
just we just failed the test.
Yes, we failed the test. Now
We
we got to
failed
go
the
back to Hugh and learn it all over again.
I just gotta look in my document for 6 C's and then I'll just find it right away.
That's
But
what I'm doing right now. I'm going through
are you
documents like,
going?
where's the six
I have it
C's
here.
at?
No, now you're forcing me to do it.
Yes.
Let me see. I have it here.
Okay,
Six
cool.
C's. Oh no. So audience, this is a moment of truth. We are looking for the 6 C's of Hugh Hilton.
For the six C's.
Here it is. Hilton 6 C's. And it says choice.
Choice is the other one.
Choice. So choice, creativity, curiosity. Curiosity to see. I can't see the 6 C's together. I have the notes and I don't have the.
Oh no.
No, we have.
Oh no, I'm still looking right now for the page that I was just on writing down notes that we were talking about. I just lost the page. Maybe this
Curiosity.
Oh, here it is. Curiosity, compassion, creativity, choice. You said choice?
Yeah.
And so that's 4. And then what was the other one you said?
So it's choice, creativity, compassion, curiosity. We have 4.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the other 2.
Other 2. Oh no.
Oh my God. Creativity, response, core values. Let me see.
Core values.
Core, but maybe customer awareness. No, maybe customer comes first. Maybe
customer, maybe.
I got the frequency numbers. Customer comes first. Maybe customer comes first. Yeah, I think that's another one.
Okay.
Customer.
I remember, and I know I wrote it down, and I know I've heard him say it twice. I heard it at Mega Success, and I've heard it in a Zoom meeting, and I wrote them both down. And why they are not sticking in my head is
maybe
not
communication.
good.
Communication is the other one.
Do we do communication? Yeah. Oh, communication would be 6 instead of customer awareness, or is it core values?
Maybe it's a customer first, or maybe communication.
Communication,
I think
choice,
core
compassion,
values.
core values, and curious. I think those are the 6 right there. Because customer didn't sound right, but I think it's curious, creativity, compassion, choice, core values, and communication. That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so Hugh, forgive us if you're listening to this.
Oh, Hugh is gonna get us with a nice smile. With a smile like you all didn't remember, but I'm gonna smile in your face.
How many?
I love that smile.
Listen to this, but it's that's what it is. But it's very important, we had to have a pause and fix, because we learn from these mentors, coaches, and we definitely take that value and try to apply it to our business and to our personal life.
And it just brought full circle what we talked about at the very beginning, working on our memory, because part of our mind's sake is how we exercise it. Even if we have to look up stuff to kind of put it back in our memory, the
Yes.
ability for us to actually look out for that knowledge, re-put it back in our brain, and work our working memory into our long-term memory is going to help us excel in the future.
That's right. So there you have it. So this is it for today. And so here we are, Doc and Neni. And so you can find us online and all the social media, Doc Rio and I'm Neni Chacin. You can find me on Instagram and all
Or
of that.
Carolina Chacin.
Or Carolina Chacin. Yeah, Neni
Carolina.
Carolina Chacin. So you can find us both on social media, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Clubhouse, on Twitter, on everything out there. And of course, we have music, we have all the stuff, and we didn't talk about that. Maybe the next time we'll talk about music a little more.
You
And
can always Google us.
because there's some interesting stuff that we haven't talked. But anyway, that's really good. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching this, thank you so much for paying attention. Share it, like it, leave a comment, ask us some questions. Maybe you want to suggest some sort of topic. Any questions about what we talked, please leave a message, comment, like, share. And we really appreciate you listening and following us, supporting us through all the social media. And we do this because we really like it. We like it because we grow and you grow. When we discuss, we show you how our brains are thinking. We show you the things that we're learning, and we want you to grow just as much as we are growing. And we want to share our growth as well. We want to share the wealth. And maybe this is not something that you were thinking about, but this is what we do. This is we share our knowledge wealth, our abundance wealth, and we want you to grow with us. So with that, so let's check the next episode. And this is Neni and Doc, and we are
We're out.